But Christians, those that are rebirthed by God, should have a pretty good idea of what's going on. What's going on in this world. What you see happening isn't real. The apostle made that very clear to us in one of his writings when he said the things that are seen are not real. It's the things that are not seen that are more truthful, more real. And so I hope you've come to that stage. Every once in a while I run into somebody that's so politically minded they're down in the dumps all the time. If you watch politicians, that's enough to make anybody go down in the dumps. But that isn't a part of God's plan. That's happening, but that's not his plan. That's like going to the circus, and over here on the side of the circus is a carnival. The carnival's there trying to make some money, but the circus is what you went to see. You ever notice that? Maybe you haven't been to a big tent circus in years. They don't have much anymore. But you can always have a subservient thing that's getting your attention. And the main thing is losing out in knowledge and understanding. And if we're not careful, while God's plan is so perfectly written in the Scriptures that anybody should know it. For instance, he said there'd be wars and rumors of war. So his approach to that is quit worrying about it. He says there'll be earthquakes in divers places. Quit worrying about it. There'll be famine on every hand. We had that in our world. Most of us wasn't worried about that, but that's still going on. Hundreds of thousands of people are starving to death regularly in our world, and that's no exaggeration. And things are happening all around us. He said these things had happened, but these things were not a part of what it is he's doing for you and I. It's kind of hard for me to talk to you and I about who we are, because on one hand, we are sinners saved by grace. That's a good Baptist line. We are sinners saved by grace. But on the other hand, we are eternal sons of God. And what you have to do is to move from one of those to another, and that depends on the depth of your understanding and knowledge in the Lord as to how you'll do that. But that's what we're all doing. We're moving from being once in our mind sinners going to hell. Now we're going to heaven. But we haven't come into that beautiful sonship picture yet where it took a birthing to get us there. And so what our message is doing is trying to concentrate on that point, that we not only were just saved by grace, but in grace we were rebirthed. And so we became a whole different kind of people. A whole different kind of people. I like what one writer said concerning 2 Corinthians 5:17, therefore if any man be in Christ, he is a new race of people. Talked about that, didn't I? And you ought to get that in your mind, that to God we're a whole different group of people. Yet you live in the midst of a group of people that look just like you and act just like you, or you act just like them, and it's hard to make a distinguishment between the two. So it's been on my mind that we would come to some kind of an understanding of who we are and how we got to be who we are. I talk a lot about the fact that we have been born again, but I come to find out that a lot of people have no concept of that. They really have no concept of a new birthing to a human being. We're still all about in the same stage that Nicodemus was when Jesus said, you must be born again. And he said, what do I do? Go back in my mother's womb. So if you're not careful, you will be looking at your relationship with God on the same basis of Adamic knowledge. You'll be looking at it on the same basis of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And if you're not careful, your whole life will be generated by that. You can't let that happen. You're a different group of people. None of that information belongs to you. None of that is true as far as you're concerned. And so sooner or later you got to move on into who and what you are in Christ.